everybody, welcome back to the show. Today we're going to be talking about karma and the Catholic Church and Christianity and what they have in common. Here's the thought process here, right? A lot of people in our society today, Dan and I were from the United States. There's a lot of people who believe in karma. They believe that if you do something wrong, it'll come back around and you'll get what's due. You know, justice will be served in the end. But I don't have the definition of karma, but, you know, karma is like if you steal and someone, 3 days later, you're either going to get stolen from or something bad will happen to you, or maybe something gets stolen and you're like, oh, that's karma. Like I knew that I should have seen that coming.
Mm-hmm.
But the funny thing is a lot of people who are very, they're very accepting of the whole karma idea. They also tend to be very anti-religious, or they might be very agnostic, or don't really know what they believe in, or don't believe in religion at all. But the funny thing is that idea and Christianity are actually they're very closely united, and here's how. Christianity teaches that there's a final judgment, and that if you do wrong, you will pay the price for the wrongs you do. If you don't seek amends, if you don't confess up to your wrong, own up to it, take responsibility for it, make amends for it, and make amends to do come to a place where you agree you're going to do better in the future and not make that same mistake, then Christianity is like, hey, you're going to pay for this. Like there's a final judgment. God's going to be like, you did this, and this wrong. Now you have to pay this price. Some people take that really literally and are like, hey, if you do something wrong, you're going to hell. It's not quite what they teach, but well, not to that extreme usually. But the idea behind that, the idea that Catholicism and Christianity teach is that you will pay for what you've done. You will have to make right what you did wrong. There will have to be a balance. Whatever you put in one glass is going to get equaled out on the other scale in the other glass. So I just thought it was amusing, because a lot of people believe karma and they don't really like religion or what it teaches. But the funny thing is, there's a lot of similar things.
Right. And I think karma could be just a label too, in a way, for someone who doesn't have a religious belief or spiritual belief, or it could be a spiritual belief, but it could be a label in the sense that you're trying to make sense of things. Like, why does something happen to me like later on in life? Wait a second, is that because of earlier in my life I did this and it came back to bite me? And also, karma can be like looking at it and looking at our situations in kind of a negative light, and of course I'm trying to make sense of it.
You're talking about like in the sense that, hey, this is why something bad happened to me, because I did the exact same thing 2 months ago to someone. Yeah,
right. Exactly. And it's like, and I think people question, does that happen to me like for no reason, or is this because of something else? It's kind of like, we try to reason where there's a cause and there's an effect.
I think that's why a lot of people believe in karma, is because they're like, hey, the only reason that something bad could have happened to me is because I did something bad, which isn't always true. Sometimes bad things happen to you because of other choices you made, not because of the same action you did wrong. Bad things happen to you for a lot of different reasons, and sometimes no reason at all is the answer. But I think a lot of people believe in karma because they need to justify why something bad happened to them, and they use that by saying, well, it's because I did something bad, in the past.
Right.
But it's it's interesting that such a widely accepted view, because most people, if you ask them if they believe in karma, would probably be like, yeah, I do believe in karma, or yeah, I believe in like there's a balance to everything, or I believe in, nature is a balance or whatever.
Mhm.
And it's like that's actually what a lot of different religions, especially Christianity, has been preaching for thousands of years. So
Mhm.
it's really funny that I almost feel like it got strewed, it was construed. It was like,
Right.
here's what religion teaches, and we don't want to associate with religion, so we'll just take the idea that they teach and say it doesn't have to do with religion. So
Right. And I mean, it's very similar in a way. It's, you sow what you reap.
yeah,
And I think in the spiritual sense too, it's like, it's like what we do is going to echo in uh like the spiritual world, and the spiritual world doesn't have time. So, and the spiritual world is just. So it's gonna, everything's gonna be justified.
and there's a lot of things in the Bible, and in Scripture, that say that. There's like the story of the Sermon on the Mount, where Christ is like, "Hey, if you lead children astray, it would be better that you killed yourself with by drowning yourself with a millstone."
Hmm.
Like, he's like, that's how bad that sin is, and like that's how bad your punishment is. And there's some, like what you said, you reap what you sow. That definitely comes up in Scripture. That phrase came from Scripture. Um, there's so much in the Bible that talks about what you do wrong, you'll pay the price for, or this
Hmm.
man did this wrong, and this is the consequence of his action. A lot of stuff that every day people would be like, "That's karma." In your
Hmm.
average life, that's what you'd see.
Right.
And like reality is that's spirituality, that's religion, that's whatever you want to call it, the
Uh-huh.
justice and the balance of Mother Nature. Um,
Uh-huh. Or it's just logical sense, because if you if you hang around, if you play around dirt, you're probably gonna get dirty.
right.
If you our subconscious mind works in ways to where if we want to find something, we're gonna notice it. You like that whatever that video where it's like you you have to they have you focus on counting how many people I think there
Yeah,
are, but
yeah.
the bear walks through the middle,
The gorilla.
right, or the gorilla, yeah. And
How many black basketball, or how many times for the basketball passed between the
right,
black
that
and the
was it,
white
that was
team?
it, that was it. And I mean, the whole point of that is your subconscious mind, like what you're focusing on and what you're thinking about, um,
Is what you see.
right, and what you notice. So
Yeah, that kind of takes
subconsciously,
us off into it.
you're going to um, seek out things that you're focused on,
And
and
you're gonna see more of those things show up in your life.
right. So if
Yeah.
you hang around bad people, right, and you do, um, and it may affect you, and it's probably gonna affect you because you're um
What you're looking
it,
at.
yeah, exactly, it shaped your focus, it shaped your mind to pay attention to that kind of environment.
Yeah, it's true. Um, it's also it's what you're gonna notice. It's what's gonna happen to you, um, because you're noticing it. And a lot of times, I mean, there's instances where you'll do it and you'll sweep it under the rug. You you hit someone's car and you drove away without telling them, and maybe you got over it really quickly and you're like, nope, doesn't bother me, even though it probably does. I honestly don't think, I think people are kidding themselves when they tell themselves that it doesn't bother them at all. Um, but some people, it'll nag on their mind for something they did wrong and didn't make amends for. And then, it catches up to them in the end and someone hits their car and does a hit and
Mhm.
run. And, but either way, it shows up in your life, even if it was a mistake. You know, the point is, most people believe in karma, and it's funny how closely tied to spirituality that is. Um, and there's so much you can talk about from
Mhm.
karma, but
It makes me think of Newton's law in like a spiritual
yep,
way, which
Well,
is
that's the thing is, before there was science,
interesting.
there was spirituality. Science
Right.
didn't exist until a couple hundred years ago. And Newton's
Mhm.
laws, for every reaction, there will be an opposite reaction. And it's like, okay, science has its own equation for this. People believe in karma. Most religions believe in this. It's like, but you don't want to accept religion. Okay, well, just if the point here is it's just something to think about. It's like most people swear by science and karma and
Mhm.
nature and that type of stuff. And it's like that stuff's telling you, and religion's telling you. So you can't really reject. Maybe you should consider opening up your eyes to
Mhm.
some things that religion teaches, because there's a couple. You know,
Mhm.
most people survive this long with religion in their lives, so
Mhm. Right.
there must be some good message in it. And that's why I appreciate Jordan Peterson's work, because Dr. Peterson, he's not religious. He sees the Bible as a mythological story, but he still recognizes that there's literally like huge life lesson stories in every Bible story,
Right. Yeah.
even if it's just a myth. So,
Mhm.
so on that note, any final comments before we end this?
Um. Yeah. I mean, it it can be kind of confusing a little bit with uh, you could see it in different lights.
Yep,
Karma, a way of karma, and a way of religion.
and science too.
Hmm. A little bit, not it doesn't. Science doesn't go
As deep,
very deeply. Yeah, as deep it doesn't, but you can
even though people
kind of
think
see
it
it in
would.
that way.
But yeah, I would conclude by saying, be open to the universe, be open to what's out there. There's a reason science exists. There's a reason nature exists. There's a reason religions existed for so long. There's a reason you are emotional. There's a reason, for all this stuff. So be open to all these signs. Don't ignore anything. Don't pick and choose. Don't cherry pick. Don't don't just embrace one thing when there's multiple sources out there, especially multiple sources that you haven't thoroughly investigated. Um, be open, embrace life, love everything. Thanks for joining us, guys. Peace.